is a writer, speaker, and nature nerd. She is currently a matrescens educator working to empower new moms and holds a bachelor's degree in biological science from the University of California, Davis. In her professional past lives, she has worked as a duck biologist, which I'd kind of like to talk about, just if we can fit that in, that'd be great. An environmental educator and co-founded a reclaimed woodworking brand. Also very cool. Conroy lives in Sacramento with her husband, 2 kids, and a race car, whose name you will learn shortly. Your Mom Races Rally is her first book. Kelly, welcome to The Premise.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to talk about this book. I loved it so much. In fact, I cried through most of it, but it wasn't it's not the kind of book where, you're crying because you're sad, or it was just more so deeply touching in so many ways. There's 5 parts, and I cried in the beginning for you, and I cried at the end because I was so gleeful and happy for you and for this experience and inspired. So well done.
Thank you. I'm so glad. Honestly, it's a weird thing to say, but one of my biggest goals is to get people to cry.
That's not messed up at all.
I think it's just it's so common for us to be so disconnected from our feelings, or honestly even afraid to feel our feelings. And so when I can get someone to be open enough to actually cry and feel those feelings, I feel so honored. And also a big goal with my book was to help people feel seen. And I think when we feel seen, especially in our very vulnerable places that we tend to guard very closely, it often comes out as tears. And so I just think that's evidence, that someone is feeling seen and validated and like you said, touched in a positive way.
And this book is very vulnerable. And I can only imagine, are you normally a vulnerable person who puts it out there like that? Or was that hard for you?
I tend to be pretty vulnerable. I think what had to happen for me to write this book, because it is so vulnerable, I had to essentially imagine that I was just writing it to myself, being a witness to myself as I wrote it. Because as soon as it was released and I realized people I don't know personally are going to be reading
You're like, book. Oh, why did I do this?
Yeah, I definitely had a vulnerability hangover, I'll say.
Yeah.
But I think it was really important to be as vulnerable as I was and share as much as I did, again, to help people feel seen in those hard parts that we tend to hide away, because we feel shame about it, or we don't know how to move through it, or we don't have the support to move through it. So I really just wanted to put it all out there and say, these are human experiences and other people have had them too, so that people could relate if they need to.
Well done. And I want to jump into shame, but before we do that, I want to talk to our listeners a bit about this book. So Your Mom Races Rally, Motherhood, Motorsports, and the Revolution of Fun. So this conversation is going to start, around shame, which is how your book starts out and the whole impetus for the entire journey you took. But it ends in a really kick-ass way. So we're going to dive into shame now, but hold on, folks. We're going to go fast and tight around those corners into the fun part real soon. So, opening the book with your shame and sort of your guilt really about taking on something that was so just for you. It was hard for you. Can you talk to us about why you chose to start there in the book?
Yeah, I really wanted to open up. I just wanted to open immediately into the hard stuff, because the whole book, the whole idea, honestly, of learning how to race rally cars as a middle-aged mom with no motorsports background, no car background, it was kind of a joke at first. And so part of it was, there's this silly aspect of how ridiculous to be where I was in life and to go after, becoming a race car driver out of absolutely nowhere. And so I knew that there was going to be this fun, silly, playful aspect to it, but I didn't realize that in pursuing those fun goals, I had to really confront the hard stuff that I had been just sort of stewing in for a long time. I couldn't just bypass it. I had to really look at where I was in life and so that I could move forward into something different. And so I really just wanted to drop the reader into, like, this was the middle of, just like the emotion soup of all of the hard stuff, all of the fear, all of the things that were basically like keeping me back, like preventing me from going after those things that I really wanted. And so, yeah, I just wanted to kind of drop them in right into the middle.
And at what point in the journey did you start writing the book? Was it, because I know that you somehow brilliantly thought I should record all of this, and for posterity. So like there's YouTube, I think there's YouTube, but there's Instagram videos, and, we get to see the whole journey, which was awesome. But did you ever think to yourself, oh, this might be a book?
Yeah, I honestly have always said that I was a writer. I have always written in different ways, different forms all throughout, my professional career. Even just when I was a little kid, I just had journals and diaries, and I just wrote and wrote and wrote. And it was really how I expressed myself, but also it was how I figured out what I was feeling and what I was experiencing. It was like a very powerful processing tool for me. And so honestly, from the very beginning, I was like, oh, that would be a cool story. And I was like, maybe it would be a fiction story. Maybe it's a way I can write this story and sort of live vicariously. And then I realized, like, oh no, I actually need to do it.
Yeah.
I actually need to do it. And so I did go into the process imagining, like, what would it be like to tell this story? And honestly, me recording like the videos and everything, I started posting on Instagram kind of on a whim, just because I needed to really witness myself doing it. It was such a, like I said, ridiculous goal. And there were so many internal beliefs and obstacles that I was having, and external obstacles, honestly, and challenges. And so I just wanted to have this record of like proof that I was making progress, and kind of just this record of like, wow, this is what's coming up. This is what I'm feeling. These are the fears that are trying to stop me from moving forward. And I think also just with the effort of trusting that, like, whoever needs to see it, like, it'll find who needed it,
Yeah.
So that people could see, like, oh, chasing dreams isn't always like rainbows and butterflies. Like, it's, it's a lot of like, shadow work. It's a lot of dredging up the hard things and facing them so you can move forward. So I just wanted to record it and prove to myself and prove to whoever was interested, that it's possible.
And it turns out people were very interested.
People were very interested. Yeah. I still kind of, anytime I get on Instagram, I'm like, what is happening? Why? I honestly am surprised I have this beautiful platform and this wonderful audience of people who are so supportive and so kind, and have sent me messages with just deep, deep meaning of how they connect to what I have shared and what I'm doing, and how it has inspired them and gotten them through dark times as well. And it's been really surprising and beautiful.
I would think, like, of all the things you could choose, like, rally racing would not be the choice for building community and getting so much support and touching people in such a deep way that really has nothing to do with rally racing at the end of the day.
Yes, it has. I could not believe the meaning that I found in motorsports. Like, I didn't choose motorsports because I thought there would be meaning there. I chose motorsports because I thought it would just be like 100% fun, kind of detached, almost like being able to like dissociate from my life type of fun,
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, it turned out to really be so deep. And the meaning that people are getting out of motorsports, which I went into thinking it was so silly and so sort of surface level, but it's this really deep, sort of like metaphorical activity where people are finding deep community. They're building resilience, they're building tools, they're working through like difficult things in their lives, and they're doing it together with other people.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think that it would be such a community sport, because you're alone. Maybe you have a co-driver, but you're alone in this car, and it's loud, and you're moving fast, and yet you're surrounded by people cheering you on, and you're not really racing each other as much as you're enjoying just the feeling of being in the dirt, it sounds like.
I would think that that of all of the motorsports available, you chose the poetic one.
I agree.
As opposed to going fast and turning left.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes. Yeah, I do. I love hearing it described as poetic because that's exactly what rally is like. I describe it in the book in all these different ways. Like rally is prayer, rally is meditation, rally is community, rally is dance. Like it's all these things, but poetic is such a perfect way to describe it because there is the actual racing, which is in the scheme of racing rally cars, the actual racing is the smallest portion of time that you spend on the sport. And everything else leading up to it is working on the car, building the car, meeting other people, learning new things.
Learning to drive a stick.
Yes. Yeah. I had to learn how to drive a stick. I had never driven a stick before. And also I think it's just like a shared experience. In the world right now, we all are so siloed and we're so in our individual worlds, doing our individual to-do lists and going after our individual goals. And rally is this beautiful thing where it's a team sport in the fact that, you have a crew, you have a co-driver, things like that. But it's also just this collective community experience where everybody is there because they love it. And they love it on a level that is so hard to describe, where it just like gets into your body. It's this very somatic experience. It's this like a spiritual experience. It just hits all of the planes of, I think, being a living being. And then you get to just openly share that with everybody else that's at an event or at a race or just interested in the sport at all. It's just this immediate shared experience.
It's so cool. And I loved how you reached out to other women in motorsports and rally. And, they were so like accepting and wanted to support you and be there for you. And men too. I mean, you also reached out to men, and that part of it was really cool.
Yeah, it was, honestly, a lot of the people who are included in the book reached out to me. And before I was even like interviewing or researching for the book, people would just send me really nice messages on Instagram saying like, I'm so proud of you. Or I'm also a woman in motorsports, and this has been my experience. I also cried when I learned how to drive stick, like, all of these messages sort of like of solidarity and support. And it just was this immediate connection where I was like, can I talk to you more about your experience and your life? Like what led you to motorsports,
Right. Yeah.
It's been really fun.
So the book starts really, you're getting ready to take this journey, but then we take a step back to your experience of being a mother, which didn't start easy for you. I mean, I think it was 6 miscarriages you had. And then, is that right? 6?
I had 2 miscarriages, but like infertility, miscarriages, and then just 2 absolutely horrible pregnancies.
Okay. So I don't know where I got the number 6, but the horrible part like cannot be stressed enough because you had what is called HG, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce it.
Yeah.
But
it's called hyperemesis gravidarum.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
Yeah.
And then basically, like you couldn't even sip water without needing to throw up. And
yeah.
I mean, you were just incapacitated. There was you imagine this joy and this like beautiful experience, and I think all women imagine that's how carrying your child is going to be, but it was so the opposite for you.
Yeah, it really was the opposite. I knew from like a pretty young age that I wanted to be a mom. And so it just was a goal. I talk in the book also about how it's like, I feel like you're given this checklist in life, right? Where you're like, go to school, check. Start a job, check,
Get married, check, yeah.
Get married, check, yeah. And then have a baby, check. And so I was like, okay, have a baby is definitely on my list, And I definitely believed this cultural narrative that we have, especially in the US, that motherhood is the most natural thing you can do as a woman, right? It's what your body is made for. It will come so naturally. You'll just have these instincts and they'll magically come to you. Pregnancy is beautiful and childbirth is easy, like all these, because it's what your body's built for, And so I didn't really give it a second thought until it didn't go well. And then I thought, because I had been sort of sold this idea my whole life that like, well, this is what my body's supposed to be doing. And then my body wasn't doing it very easily or well. I took that as like a personal shame.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, well, there's something wrong with me.
Right.
And I didn't realize until years and years later when I became a matrescens educator that, oh, it wasn't something wrong with me. It's something wrong with those messages.
Exactly.
Like, yes, pregnancy and childbirth, breastfeeding, all those things are natural because they occur in nature. But natural and like easy are not the same word. They don't mean the same thing. And it just like, it did not come easily to me. It was extremely difficult. And I really sat in the shame of that alone for a long time, especially with my miscarriages. Like losing a pregnancy was not something I was at all prepared for. And then when it happened, I didn't know where to turn. Like I didn't know what to do. I just took it as like another failure of my body instead of realizing like, unfortunately, miscarriage is natural also. Like that also happens in nature. And so I really had to sift through that and find my community and honestly find like the grief and rage that I felt about having essentially been lied to about motherhood being this like easy thing.
I feel like every expectant mom should read this book because you are so honest about it, but also you're absolutely right. So many moms blame themselves and they have no one to talk to. They don't even want to tell their own moms because in their memory, their mom did it perfectly. So there must be something wrong with you because you didn't do it perfectly. And I've met and heard so many similar stories like that.
Yeah, it really is. And I think it's because we sort of put this shame on women where like if there's so much reproductive shame, if you get pregnant at the quote unquote wrong time, there's shame on women, if
not soon enough, too late. Yeah. All of that.
Totally. Like if you lose a pregnancy, that's shame. That's, if your kids are acting out, that's shame on the mom. You know what I mean? Our culture puts so much shame on women and on mothers. If you don't want to have kids, oh my gosh, the shame that comes down on women who choose not to have kids,
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that pushes women into silence, right? The shame makes us tell ourselves like, oh, I'm the problem. I'm the wrong one. I'm the bad one. And so then we don't share and we don't reach out. We don't process our feelings. And then that just keeps every single woman that's experiencing those feelings isolated and feeling alone. And so that's another reason why I was like, I just went all in. I was like, I'm going to share all of the shame. I'm going to share everything that was hard because I want it to be more of an open discussion so that women don't have to feel alone.
Well, and this book is really like you're an advocate for healthcare, for women's rights, for, turning what is basically the patriarchy on its head. And, we've been lied to that women are supposed to do it all and do it well and not complain. And like looking back into history, like women have always done it. Like you used the hunters and gatherers example, which I thought was really poignant, that actually that's not really true. Men weren't really hunting as much. We were really, it's different than what we've been taught because it serves capitalism.
It does. Yes. I go pretty deep into the systems that are supported by women being self-sacrificial.
Totally.
And yeah, especially in motherhood, right? We praise the selfless mother.
Right. Yeah.
And like to be selfless just means to not have a self.
To lose yourself.
Yes, to lose yourself, to not be a person. And we praise that even in girls where girls are socialized into being the caregiver, the nurturer, the selfless giver, right? The people pleaser. And really, that doesn't serve us. That doesn't serve our children. That doesn't serve our friends or the people that love us. What it does is it reinforces these systems that are essentially built on the invisible, silent, unpaid labor of women, right? Like if the caregiving stopped, society would stop. But as long as women are convinced to continue doing this caregiving silently and in the background and, basically gaslit into being happy about it, then, those systems can keep profiting off of us.
And you point out that you were gaslighting yourself because that's what you thought you were supposed to do.
Yes. Yeah. It's this very like insidious system where the messages, it's not like someone came up to my face and said, this is what girls do. This is what boys do. But it's like, I just had observed it and absorbed it my whole life. Like there's just cultural conditioning, cultural messaging that you just absorb by living out in the world and in these systems. And so what happened is I looked at the world and I was like, okay, well, that's true, right? My brain took that as like, well, that's the truth. That's how things are. And so anything that deviated from that had to be false, right? And so when in my mind, I was like, well, this doesn't feel right. Like something about this doesn't feel right. Then it again turned back on me where it's like the shame of me being the wrong one, me being the misfit, me not towing the line, me being disruptive or, rocking the boat, whatever it is. And so I really had to gaslight myself into being like, no, you're supposed to be a happy mom. Like you're supposed to be fulfilled by just taking care of your children 24/7 with no breaks, And so I tried that for a long time. I was like, maybe I can gaslight myself into being the good mom that I remember, being portrayed. And it did not work. I really just gaslit myself into deep, deep depression.
And so now you have your first baby. And of course, she's colicky. So she cries all the time.
All the time.
And doctors are like, oh, well, don't worry. It'll end. And like, what did he say? 9 months? I forget what the timeline was.
Yeah. Yeah. The doctor was just like, oh, they usually grow out of it like in 6 to 12 months.
And you're like,
and
what?
I think, yeah. Yeah. She was like maybe 6 weeks old. And I remember sitting in the doctor's office and I was like, I will not survive. Like I cannot live like this for 6 to 12 more months. And that was a very real thought for me. And it was a really, really difficult moment.
And this goes back to the idea of American capitalism that, we're told, and I'm going to quote directly from your book, we're told self-sufficiency as a virtue and relying on others as weakness. American capitalism thrives. And toxic individualism, where asking for help means you have failed. So here you are in this situation with a colicky baby, you're postpartum, you're depressed, you've lost yourself, your husband has to work so you can pay the bills, you don't have enough healthcare, and you don't have a community to help. And we've created this for you.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, it's a very intentional that we are isolating mothers and not investing in supporting or caring for them. And it really just serves to reinforce that spiral of like shame and depression and isolation and suffering in silence. And then just being like, well, I guess this is all that I'm good for, or I guess this is the place I'm allowed to occupy now. And it took a lot of energy for me to say, wait a minute. Like it took a lot of energy and honestly antidepressants to kind of like fight my way out of that.
Mm-hmm. And then you did it again.
And then I did it again, which is like ridiculous. Yeah.
But the beauty, that just proves that like the beauty of your children is like so overpowering that you're like, this time's going to be better. You believed it again.
I did. There just was something where I was like, and it took a long time. It took me like multiple years to where I could kind of be open to doing that. And then I did not write this in the book, but honestly, when I found out I was pregnant with my second, I had a conversation with a friend where I was like, is this what I want to do? Like, do I want to put myself through this again? And my dear, dear friend was so wonderful. And she was like, you don't have to. Like I needed the permission.
Yeah.
I needed someone to say like, it's okay if you don't want to go through that again. And honestly, just hearing that, just knowing that I had kind of like that
agency. Yeah,
that agency, then it felt like, okay, I can make the decision that actually feels right for me and not the one I feel like I am obligated to make. And at least the second time around, I kind of knew that I was going to have hyperemesis gravidarum again. And so I set up the supports, I had the medication, I had the in-home nurse to give me IV fluids. But it was still not great. And it was during COVID.
I was going to say, and then COVID, like all of it was so stacked,
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, and it's funny, like talking about all those layers on top of each other. I'm like, man, women are so strong. Like, it is unbelievable what women go through, even without having children, the things that we go through trying to survive, like in these systems that are built against us, and at the very least, like not built for us, and at the very worst, built intentionally against us. Like, women are so strong.
Mm-hmm. Amen, sister.
So what you're saying is that rally racing just isn't that tough.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, rally racing is honestly, it's so fun. It's, and I think that's why I went for it, is because it felt like the opposite of the day-to-day just like grind of trying to survive like American motherhood, and not my children, right? Like, there's a separation between my children and who they are, and me being their mother and me loving them so much. And I'm so grateful to be in that role. I'm so honored to be their mom. But there's a difference between that and the role of being a caregiver within American systems, right? And those expectations, like, that's a different thing. And those expectations were just absolutely crushing me. And so when I thought of rally racing, I was like, that's so silly. Like, that's so ridiculous. And it also was something that could be like just mine. Like that it didn't have to involve my kids. I wouldn't have to be thinking about doing the dishes or the laundry or packing lunches or the school pickup schedule. It was something that just seemed so freeing and so empowering and so fun. And that's what really, really attracted me to it.
Do you have the book near you? Is it sitting within reach?
I do, yeah.
If you turn to page 17, I would like you to read one paragraph.
Okay,
It's
let me find 17.
so cool. And so page 17, the second section, paragraph 2, starting with, I had chosen the most.
Yes, okay. I had chosen the most absurdly outlandish goal I could imagine, a manifestation of my vast backlog of self-care and self-expression. For the past 7 years, I had barely been able to use a bathroom without my children present, let alone pursue a hobby. I needed something big, something jarring to catapult me out of the cycle of overwhelm and defeat. And if rally racing is anything, it's big and jarring. Rally is drifting and sliding across dirt and gravel. It's flying over jumps and speeding down densely treed roads and alongside deadly cliffsides. Rally is unpredictable, dangerous, thrilling. Rally is all the things a mom is scorned for, and that's what made it perfect.
Oh my God, I love that so much. And even hearing you read it now brings tears to my eyes of like excitement. I'm so excited for you in that moment. I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it really, it's so much fun. It's something where, again, like the community of motorsports, and especially I think people that do motorsports off-road, because there's something like Chad, you were saying, it's not just like getting in a car and turning left. It's like unpredictable. You can't control the conditions. You don't know what the road ahead is going to be like. It's really just this exercise in like flexibility and open-mindedness and resourcing yourself with your tools. And it's just so much fun. And so I'm like, I want all of the people I know, I want everybody in the world to try it and just see how much fun it is, because I think when we're having fun, right? Like when you have something that's fun that you're really excited about or really interested in, like you want to share it, right? You want to be like, oh my God, look at this fun thing. Here, you have fun too. Like you do it too, because it's so contagious. It's so just infectious in like the best way. And that's how I feel about rally, where at this point with my rally car, I have more fun watching other people drive it than driving it myself, because just seeing the joy that it brings, it's just like the best feeling to be able to spread fun to other people and watch that spark come back to life in them.
Yeah. Well, there's this moment where Russ, you're constantly like, oh my God, should I do this? Should I do this? And you're literally talking yourself into it. and convincing yourself that it's going to be okay. And you're making a big decision at this point in the book where you're going to drive 3 days with your children. You're going to rent a trailer and go to this race up in Washington in Enumclaw. And you're like, I don't know. And Russ is like, listen, no one's going to make you have fun. Like, there's no fun police who comes around to make sure you're doing a good job. We have to do this ourselves. And we don't. We put it on a back burner. And you're like, that's right.
Yes. Yeah. It's so easy to put fun and joy on the back burner because we're just like inundated again with capitalism. We're inundated with these messages that like everything has to be productive all the time. Mm-hmm. Like you have to be grinding, you have to be working, you have to totally exhaust yourself. Like everything has to have an ROI. Everything should be 10x'd, you know? And so fun is this, you know, frivolous thing that we think doesn't have an ROI. We think it isn't productive. We think it's selfish even to have fun.
Yeah.
Especially when there's so much suffering happening in the world. You know, it's really hard to prioritize having fun. And so, yeah, I really questioned because motorsports are expensive and they're time consuming.
Yeah.
And so it really was, I chose the thing that was going to reallocate a lot of our family resources back to me. And so that came with a lot of uncomfortable feelings of like, is this guilt?
Yeah.
Like, is this actually against my values to be using resources and time on me? Or is that just a narrative that I've been told as a mom, you're not supposed to use time and resources on yourself, you know?
Right.
So I really had to look at like, what actually are my values? And is this values aligned? But at literally every step of the way, I had to confront that and I would question it. And my beautiful, wonderful, supportive husband, thankfully, was there and is there every step of the way for me to externalize that process, you know, and to say like, oh, this feels crazy. Like, is this too much? Am I asking for too much here to take this like week-long road trip? Take the kids out of school, you know, he had to take PTO from work. We're spending all this money on hotels and gas and race entry fees and all this stuff. And I was like, is this too much? Like, how far can I take it? You know, like how much am I allowed to ask for?
Right.
Basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I write about it in the book, and it just was this beautifully mundane moment where we literally were just like flossing our teeth before bed. And I ask him that, and he just very casually is like, no, like fun is, nobody's going to make fun mandatory for us. Like we have to choose it for ourselves. And it blew my mind because even though I had spent a year doing this thing and going after fun and, you know, confronting all these fears and internal beliefs. And he just so easily was like, no one's going to make us do this. Like, if we want to do it, we have to choose to do it. And I was like, whoa, it was such a big reframe. Like, no one's going to make it mandatory for us, right? Like, bills are mandatory, taxes are mandatory, like all the boring, lame stuff is mandatory. And so we had to really pivot our mindset to go towards the fun.
Well, you see, this country that we live in has socialized males kind of to the point where that is the default for us, right? We're expected to, you know, go out and buy our bass boats and tow them behind our big truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're expected to be good consumers in the same way that, you know, we've atomized individuals.
Mm-hmm. 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 But women, on the other hand, are expected to stay home and support. Well, and you mentioned in your book too, like it's totally okay for the husband to be golfing all Saturday, so that the mom is still at home. She never gets a break.
Right. Yeah. It's such an interesting. I feel like I have such an interesting viewpoint or just perspective on that because my husband, first of all, doesn't go golfing every Saturday, but he's so supportive of my goals and my dreams and really, because he had seen what a terrible time I had, you know, becoming a mother. We both became parents at the same time, right?
Yeah.
But my life, every aspect of my life completely blew up. And his life changed a lot too. Of course it did, right? But not nearly to the same degree. And so he would have done absolutely anything for me to get back to feeling alive, you know? But really, it is so interesting to have his perspective, because the way that he moves through the world is honestly just like more easily than I do. You know, everything is set up for him to just kind of float. Like, and not to say that he doesn't work hard. He certainly does work hard. But the challenges that he's up against are not nearly as numerous or as heavy, I would say, as the ones that I come up against every day. And so it's been really fascinating to watch him notice his privilege and to watch him be like, whoa, I don't have to come up against that ever, you know, let alone every single day. And to watch him really champion me and really realize that society is set up to center people like him, and the effort that it takes for him to center me instead. You know, for him to say, like, to know that, like, if I think I write in the book that, like, he knows that I'm the center of our family, right? I'm like the center of our little familial universe. And if the sun goes out, right, the sun being the center of the universe, then everything is gone, right? Like, it's bad for everybody if the sun goes out. And so, like, him, like, watching his process of centering me and helping my light shine brighter, and then watching in real time the ripple effects of, like, when my light shines brighter, it benefits our entire family. Like, it benefits our entire community, because I have more to give to our community. I have more to give to our family. Has been a really, really fascinating process.
I loved how invested he was. And Russ reminds me of Chad, because as most of our listeners know, Chad is also my husband, in addition to my business partner. And Russ did what Chad does for me, where he just supported you and he was there, but he also enjoyed it. Like, he loved helping you build out what I want to say your car's name, but I think you should tell people what you named your rally car. Tell us that little story real quick.
Yeah. So the rally car that I have, it's a 1985 BMW 325e, which is just a series of numbers and letters that didn't mean anything to me at the time. But it's like a 40-year-old, which I was born in 1985. Yeah. So the fact that this car is in 1985 just, like, really spoke to me. We both are, like, these little middle-aged gals just trying to figure it out together. And it was not the car that I intended to buy for rally, but it just was this, like, intuitive pull when I saw the listing. And actually, Russ is the one that found it and sent it to me. So yeah, she's this really cool vintage BMW, and we've gutted her. We've just, like, turned her into a rally car. And I thought for a long time about, like, what do I want to name this car? And do I want to refer to it as she, her, you know? Because I've always thought it was really gross when men did that. I was like, ew, you're like, you know, it's a machine and you're controlling it and you're telling it what to do. Like, it just felt very misogynistic. But the deeper that I got into it and the more I got to know the car and rally, I was like, no, this is feminine. This is feminine in a way where it is so strong and powerful and fluid and flexible and capable and dynamic. You know, all of these, it's creative, like, all of these things that are very, like, sort of the divine feminine, you know, feminine with a capital F aspects. And so I decided to name her Nessie after the Loch Ness Monster. Because for one, the little old BMW is, like, she just looks like a little, like, lake monster. But she also is just such a beast. Yeah. Like, she is so cute and so fun, but she is hardcore. Right. So yeah, I named her Nessie. She's my little monster.
I love it. And I love when Russ was like, he looked at you and he's like, why? You're like,
yeah,
because she's a beast. That was so cool.
Because she's a beast. Yeah.
And you're a beast. Like, you're a badass. Like, you've allowed yourself to step through your fear. And you said something really, I found wonderful and fabulous that all women need to hear, is, like, you didn't get over your fear.
Yeah.
But
yeah, there's still fear
right. But it doesn't control you anymore.
Yeah. It's it's just the perfect pun. And so I kind of apologize for it, but also it's just too perfect to say, like, fear was in the driver's seat. You know, like, fear in my life was controlling the car. It was driving where I went. It was informing all of my decisions. And I think that's really common. And that can lead us, you know, to dark places, or it can lead us just to be kind of spiraling over and over and over again. It can lead us to, like, living these very small, unfulfilling lives because we're too scared to do anything different. And my fear is still very present. It's still there every step of the way, but I'm not afraid of it anymore. Right. And I think when your fear stops controlling you, there's very little left that can control you. And that's so powerful, because now I can recognize my fear. I can recognize, you know, all of my emotions for what they are, which is information and experience and honestly data. But I don't have to let that drive the decision that I make moving forward. And I kind of think, I look at my emotions almost as children, where I'm like, okay, you are part of me and I love you and you have important information for me and I want to validate you, right? But you don't get to drive the car because you're a child. That's my job. And so you can come along for the ride, right? I'm not going to, like, kick you out. I'm not going to try to run away from you. You can be here with me, but you don't get to be in control anymore. That's my job.
Nice. Very nice.
Yeah.
And I love that you talked to yourself too, like video, and then watched what you saw so you could better process what you were going through and the change that was happening as you took control and stepped into the driver's seat of your life.
Yeah, I'll say this whole process honestly has felt like really big, long therapy. It has, especially like my first hurdle was learning how to drive stick. And it was so scary for me. It was honestly the hardest part of this entire journey, because it was the first time I really came up against that fear. And it was so loud and so heavy. And it was telling me things like, you're not allowed to be bad at something. You're not allowed to fail. You're not allowed to make mistakes. Like, who do you think you are trying to learn something new at this point in your life? You know, it just kept being like, go back to being small. Yeah. Go back to being scared. Don't reach for anything new. And so I had to really decide, like, is this important enough for me to push through my fear? And I recorded it because I of course I stalled. Everybody who drives sticks stalls. Of course, I still stall my car. But stalling is this very physical failure.
Right.
Where you're trying to do this new thing, and the car is giving you all this weird physical and auditory like feedback. And then it just shuts down, you know? And so I felt like the car really mirrored like the chatter that was happening in my head. And I was so nervous, and like my body was shaking and the car was shaking. And it was this really big experience. And so I'm really grateful that I filmed myself processing.
Yeah.
Like this is what the fear is telling me. And part of it was like, I said some of the fears out loud, and it was so silly, you know, where I was like, I had to say out loud, like, okay, I'm not going to break the car. Like, stalling it is not going to break the car. And I was like, okay, I can kind of laugh at that. You know, Russ can affirm, like, no, it's not going to break. And one of the fears was like, you're not going to leave me if I'm bad at driving stick, you know? And I was like, what a silly fear. Like, when you can externalize it and look at it and be like, oh, that is not reality at all. You know, it's easier to move past. But then I got deeper into it, and some of the fears really hit like very tender parts of my heart. And it really pointed to like, I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of looking stupid, honestly. I was afraid of being bad at something. And all of those fears had lived with me for so long that I didn't even realize. Like, I wasn't trying new things. I wasn't doing stuff because I was afraid of failing, or because I was afraid of trying, you know, being bad at something. And so it gave me just like the biggest boost in growth mindset, because it was like, oh, in order to get better, you have to start by being bad at it. Like you can't just come out and that's just life in general, right? Like no one's born learning how to drive stick. No one's born knowing how to even form words, right? Like everything we walk around doing that we take for granted is a learned skill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that means we can keep learning and keep adding new skills, and what a beautiful thing.
And what a beautiful lesson you've given your children, to watch their mom go through this process and see that it's okay. And I assume they saw you feel fear and work through it.
Oh yeah. I have not hidden a single emotion from my children in their lives. They've seen me cry about it. They've seen me, shaky nerves about it. They've seen me right before a race. They've seen me right after a race. So they've seen they've watched me move through my feelings and still go after what feels right for me and still accomplish these big things. My sweet daughter, she's 8 years old now. The battery had died in the rally car recently. And she was like, I got it. Like, I'm gonna get the battery out. She was like, get me the tools. And it was like this burst of confidence in a new area, like she's helped us work on the car a little bit here and there, but she just was like so empowered and so ready. Like she didn't even question whether or not it was a thing that a girl could do to get the battery out of the back of the car. She just was like, give me the tools. Here we go. Like, that's the wrong size. Like, get me a different one. Like it was amazing to see how empowered and confident she felt to try something new and to just go for it, even though she didn't know how to do it yet.
Right. You taught her that. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
But did she take the positive lead off first?
I made sure that she did. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Safety first,
And I loved your parents too, their involvement in, what we get to learn of them in the story, because, here you are describing yourself as a broken human, right? So in a lot of ways we would blame our parents for being broken, but they just did what they were taught. Their Depression era parents taught them, to buckle up, to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, all these ridiculous individualism, ideals that aren't reality. And here you are taking charge, and they're so proud of you.
Yeah. It took some time. Like at first, I think this is just like the natural process of things. Like, when I first went to therapy and started digging through this stuff, I was mad at my parents. Like I did blame my parents, because I think that's kind of the first thing you do when you wake up to.
Well, it's their fault. Yeah, totally. They did this.
Yeah, to all these things, right? But I have, especially since becoming a mom, I have gained tremendous compassion for my parents, for all parents, because and for all humans, like the only thing we have to work with is what we're given at first,
Sure.
And from there, it's like we get to choose how we grow. And it has been amazing, honestly. My relationship with my mom has been so beautiful always, but to watch her watch me has been so tender and so loving and beautiful, because she is seeing these parts of me that I felt scared to express, or I didn't know how to express, when I was younger, or maybe they got buried, underneath all of the cultural narratives and stuff. And so she's getting to see me be more fully myself, which is all she's ever wanted from me.
There's a point in the book where you're talking about how, you learned how to be a mom by watching your mom, and she did it so perfectly. Like she never complained. The house was always clean. Dinner was always on time. Did you ever ask her, like, what were her struggles? What did she hide to keep that facade of that perfection for you guys?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think because of the way that my mom was raised, like that just was the expectation. And so I don't know if honestly, if she has feelings about it. I know, like I've talked to her before, like my dad worked so hard. He worked so much. Like, I know that it was hard for her when he was gone. I know that it was heavy for her to do all of that work. But I think she kind of went into it with those expectations. And I went into motherhood with the expectation that, oh, I would still be my, like girl boss climbing the corporate ladder, like, fully developed life of adventure and fun. And a baby would kind of tack onto it and everything would be the same,
Right.
because I was like, I knew, I was like, oh, I don't want to be a stay-at-home mom like my mom was, I wanted something different than that. And so then when that wasn't my reality, like the friction between my expectations and my reality caused a lot of difficulty. Sure. Whereas I think my mom went into it, she did want to be a stay-at-home mom. And so I think she went into it with like, this is what she expected and that's what she had. But I do remember, my dad being out of town for work. And this was like, before cell phones, before email, any of that. And he was in the military. And so he was out on a military mission and just didn't come home when he was supposed to.
Right.
And hadn't heard from him and had no way to get in contact with him. And I remember her tucking me into bed one night crying because she was scared and she was sad and she was alone. And that was a really hard moment for her. And it's one of the first memories that I have of my mom of being like, oh, she's a human.
Being vulnerable, yeah.
Yeah, like she's a person and she, she does have struggles and she is going through these hard things, even though she kept it all perfect for us all the time.
Thank God for moms.
Honestly.
I want to talk about the last chapter, and I don't normally do this because I don't want any spoilers, but in this case, I feel like the last chapter of this book is so poetic and so beautiful, and it's entitled We, as in not me, but we. Mm-hmm. And there's this story about this space and this home that you and Russ and your children live in, and like that you've always hated, and you resent this space because you don't know what to do with it, and you put a rug there. And then over time you realize that you and your family spend all of your time on this rug in front of these two windows or doors looking out into the yard, and the kids play there, and even your friends, when they come over, you end up like being down on the floor, like just in it. And it was such like a beautiful metaphor for everything that's happening. Like instead of dictating and scripting and staging something, you just allowed it to be what it needed to be in that moment.
Yeah. I didn't realize that until I was writing the book. Honestly, until I was writing the conclusion, where I was like, oh my God, like most of our life in this house has been on that rug.
Yeah.
And when you walk in and when we bought the house, it was just this empty, weird, awkward space. And I was like, what's the purpose of this space? Like, what do I put here? What do I use it for? And it turned out being, we filled it with all of the other like messy, organic, playful pieces of life that you said like aren't scripted. They're not staged. But we have this physical space in our house that can be sort of like a container that can hold those things. Mm-hmm. And so we're able to fill it with that. Whereas it's the same with life, like when we are scheduling our entire day down to the minute, there's no empty space for us to fill with the unexpected, the curiosity, the joy, the surprise, And so, yeah, the carpet is this beautiful place where we connect and we get to just have fun. Honestly, we have dance parties on that rug. We play imaginative games on that rug. It really is our play space.
Ellie builds race cars on that rug.
Yes. She just like it came into her mind where she was like, we were just spending time on the rug and it just popped into her brain where she was like, I'm going to construct my own race car out of pillows, like just throw pillows. And she got construction paper out at some point, and I watched her think through all of the pieces and parts of a car that she has become familiar with because of my race car. And she's like, wait, it needs a gas pedal. Yeah. Like, wait, it needs a steering wheel, and she built out this whole like just imaginative car. And what a beautiful thing. Like, she is not being socialized to think like motorsports are only for boys.
Right.
Or, like I can't build a car because I'm a girl. You know, whatever the social scripts are that like keep motorsports so male dominated. She just was like, she has seen me, her mother, a woman, driving and building a race car. And so she's like, well, of course I can too.
Of course. I cannot wait to see what Ellie and Elder do and who they become as they grow older. You know, being raised in such a beautiful open space and open-minded experience, you know, with you is just a really cool thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm excited too. It's, you know, and it's hard because it's like, of course I still make mistakes as a mom, you know, like
no,
of course
never.
I still lose my patience. Like, you know, all those things like, it's not that, and I think I write in the book too, like, it's not like Rally fixed all of the problems, you know, but it has given me resilience and perspective and new tools and just this beautiful outlet and this beautiful like trust and belief in myself. Like, oh, I can accomplish literally anything.
Yeah.
You know, and not on my own, right? But like with the support
That's
of
right.
my family and of my community. And what a beautiful thing. Like if we modeled the world in that way, like think of how different the world would be.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever heard of the children's book, Christina, Katerina, and the Box?
I don't think
By
so.
Patricia Lee Gouch. It is one of the best kids' books. And when I was reading that section about the carpet and Ellie creating her own little race car, it took me back to my favorite children's book, Christina, Katerina, and the Box. And it's about this little girl who takes a refrigerator box and starts turning it into, you know, race cars and boats. And, you know, it's like so imaginative and so playful, and she can be anything. And I think it's like kind of the perfect kids book that encapsulates everything that you went through and made happen for yourself in your book.
That's amazing. I can't wait to read that and get it for my kids. That's perfect. Thank you for that suggestion.
Absolutely. Well, Kelly Conroy, thank you so much for being here today and talking to us about Your Mom Races Rally. I love this book so much, and I hope all of our listeners rush out and buy it today.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here, and I'm so glad that the book resonated with you.
100%. More than that. I love it. And I want to read it again. All right, friends, I want you to go check out Kelly Conroy on her Substack at Wildly Frivolous. Fantastic name. I realized we didn't even get to all the things that you're a duck biologist and a nature nerd, but we'll just have to have another podcast.
Absolutely. I could continue to talk about ducks.
So much to talk about. And also, like, go check out her Instagram account and look at the videos. I watched them. You'll get to meet Russ a little bit, and you'll get to see the kids. And it's just such a beautiful story. Go back to the beginning. It's at Your Mom Races Rally. And of course, you can buy the book wherever books are sold, but we recommend going to the publisher, carrarabooks.com. They are doing amazing things in the book world and in motorsports. And so shout out to Ryan Zumalin. This has been another episode of The Premise. You can visit us online at thepremisepod.com and subscribe and rate or review The Premise wherever you get your podcasts. Those reviews really help us get out the word for not only our podcast, but also for Kelly Conroy and amazing books like this one. You can follow me, your host, on Instagram and Facebook at Jeniffer Thompson Consulting. Until next week, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye.